Hey, so you got the Noble Nurturer as your results for the quiz. I want to talk to you a little bit more about this. I'm going to give you some suggestions as well. I feel it's going to be really helpful for you. If you never seen me before, ever, I'm Jay Diamond. Hello, I'm a dating and love coach, and I help amazing, gorgeous, fabulous women like you attract and keep their soulmate. And we do that through combining energy and strategy by clearing energetic love blocks, and also by really increasing that natural feminine allure and igniting your confidence. So, for some reason, while I'm recording this, there's builders across the road. If you hear strange noises, I apologize. I'd rather record this for you than not. So, with the Noble Nurturer, this is a woman who tends to attract relationships that feel unbalanced often. She is the one who tends to be doing all the work. She's doing the doing, she's leading, she's kind of rowing the boat, as we say in my world. She's making the relationship happen. And sometimes she can even be the one that ends up paying for things, providing all the excitement. So the noble nurturer does tend to attract broken and wounded men, or men who are in a transitionary stage in their life. So that might be divorce. They are declaring their undying love for you, and they're actually right in the middle of a sticky divorce, and then suddenly they can't commit. They might be in between jobs, or they might be just at a very different stage of life than you are, either whether that's career-wise, money-wise, focus-wise. You're going to see me referring to my notes because I'm quite notorious for talking for a long time, and I don't want to keep you here forever. I want to try and stay on track. Sometimes with Noble Nurturer, she might attract someone who has an addiction, knowingly or unknowingly. None of this is stuff that you're doing. You're not going out there and saying, I want to attract a broken man. No, of course not. It's that you have this incredible heart, and there's something going on with regards standards and boundaries where you have to put yourself first, but we'll come back to that. So you might be the person who attracts someone with either, a health issue, an addiction, they've had job loss, or they're having a number of job losses, and there's always an excuse and there's always a reason. Maybe there's always a sob story that you get kind of sucked into. And so here's the thing with Noble Nurturer. She often finds herself in helper and rescuer mode. And kind of essentially deep down, whether it's conscious or unconscious, Noble Nurturer really just hopes that she can love someone enough or encourage someone enough to have a breakthrough and fulfill their potential. It's often coming from a good place where you want them to see what they're capable of. You want them to see how great they are and how great they can be. And you really want to help them to see that so they can have a great life for themselves, So the person might also be younger and have fewer resources. So the thing with Noble Nurturer is she's a natural nurturer, right? And she's often attracted to the potential. And this is something that you really need to be aware of, is not just falling for the potential in a guy. It's really about where are they now and where are they going to be? Because if you're not happy with where someone is now, they might never get to where you think they could get. And this is the problem with Noble Nurturer. Yes, sometimes people do grow and evolve, and that's fantastic. But are you actually happy with where they are now and what they're presenting as now? Is that the right standard for you in their life? Are they at a place where they can actually offer great relationship to you now? Or are they actually really needing to be focused on getting themselves out of a sticky situation? Only you can answer that. So what Noble Nurturer often misses is that the person doesn't live up to the full potential, and that any of us fulfilling our full potential and what we're really capable of in this life is it's up to ourselves. Like, no one can make us do that. You've probably received support in your life. I've received great support in my life. And ultimately, only we are the ones that can take the step. We're the only ones who can set ourselves free. We're the only ones that can create our greatness. No one else can do it for us if we're not ready to take that step. So that's something that's really important for you to remember when you meet someone who's at a time in their life where they might not be available to give the most in relationship. And the thing is, with a noble nurturer, is resentment can really start to build when you realize that you're carrying the heavier load in the relationship. You're carrying the emotional load usually in the relationship, and sometimes even the financial load. And you're putting more effort in, and this makes things really unbalanced. So a noble nurturer is generally optimistic, very optimistic, sees the best in people, wants to see the best in people, but it can be to a fault, and this is where you end up picking up the slack for these men. You might see them as better than they actually are because they have some good qualities and you like to see the best in people. You might actually maybe ignore some of the red flags, or just like not even be seeing them because you just want to focus on what's good, but the standard of your life, the standard of your relationship isn't actually where you want it to be. With noble nurturer, you might have been given a lot of responsibility at a young age. You might be the eldest child, the one who was given the task of looking after all the other kids. So you're used to taking that kind of responsibility. You might have grown up in an environment where you were given lots of praise. The more that you did, the more that you offered, the more that you helped, the more that you were there for other people, you were given all the praise. And this trains us to put ourselves last and put everyone else first. And it doesn't have to be that it was a traumatic environment, or it might have been, but it's, it's just, everybody's trying to get by and everyone's trying to make the most of it. And you just receive this coding that your value is in taking care of other people before yourself. And that's something that really needs to be rewired. Noble nurturer has to, in order to create a high quality partnership, learn to put herself first, learn to know what your needs are, get your needs fulfilled, and expect that, a partner not should fulfill all of your needs, but that the basic needs should be met. For noble nurturer, it's really important for you to be clear about what you want in your life. What standard of life do you want to lead? What do you desire? And what kind of person can you get there with? Because if you want to have a beautiful relationship, a beautiful family, and you want to be able to homeschool your children or to provide some care for your children, you need a partner who's financially going to be supporting you when you're pregnant, after you're pregnant, in those first 12 months at least. That person needs to be able to provide for you financially. And although money might not be your first point of attraction, it's something that is important to consider, especially if you're wanting to settle down and have children with somebody. Something that's also important for noble nurturer is resolving the feelings about feeling guilty if you're not always available to help someone. Guilt can be really easily leveraged to manipulate someone who is a noble nurturer. And that might, again, be coding that you've picked up from your family, that if you're not doing what they want you to do, they make you feel guilty. Perhaps you go straight into I'm being selfish if I don't pick up the phone to this person and this person and this person. And the problem with noble nurturer is people always phone you when they're in a crisis because you always pick up the phone. And not everybody does, but you always do. So people always phone you in a crisis. And then if you don't pick up the phone, or if you don't spend an hour with them, if you don't drop all your plans, you feel guilty for it. And I know firsthand that that's a really tricky one to move through, but it's going to be really essential so that you don't keep pulling in partners who want to take your resources, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial, and can actually give you as much as you give. Like, what would it be like to be in a partnership with someone who gives as much as you? That would be magical. But you've got to start putting yourself first in order for that to happen. So yeah, put yourself first. Often you put your needs last and you become exhausted and probably resentful because of it. You train people how to treat you. We're constantly training people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves and the extent to which we will drop everything for somebody else. And it doesn't mean that you have to become a cold person and not care. It means that there needs to be a balance with how much you're giving to yourself and how much you're giving to other people. And so for Noble Nurture, it's really important that you think twice about entering into a relationship with another person who's in a transitionary phase, with another person who needs your help or who has very different resources from you or has a very different level of understanding emotionally, financially, and spiritually. And it's not selfish, it's about true compatibility. Now, if you're a person who actually, and this is no judgment, secretly gets a lot because you like to feel needed, the first thing you're going to have to start to do is have a look at releasing this need to feel needed by someone else's predicament. Like if you gain value, the majority of your value, again, you've bought into this story that you're only valuable if you help people, all you're going to continue to attract is people who need help. And the awful thing about that is that sometimes when they've got what they need, they move on and they leave you. And you build that person, you help that person get to a better place. And when they feel great, they leave you for somebody else. And everything that you've put into them, they give to someone else. And that is heartbreaking. There's no other way to say it. It's heartbreaking. And the way to prevent that happening to you again is to start to learn how to put yourself first and learn where you're leaking power. So the first class that I recommend for you is Release, Align, Rise, because there's a lot of discussion about your personal power in that class. And this is one of the first things that you need to start looking at before you start learning about all the male psychology and all the tips and tricks and all the texts that you should send. Personal power first. Otherwise, none of that stuff is going to work very well for you. It won't last without your personal power first. So Release, Align, Rise is a program you can find the link for here. Obviously, we've got the Soulmate Solution, which is the deep dive, which obviously you're really welcome to come to. But I'm going to give you a link to that Release, Align, Rise, and I think it's going to serve you really, really well. I'll speak to you soon.